The Choir Boys run to paradise. It's 5 minutes past 8. It's a Thursday morning. It means one thing. It's Sports Fever time. A big welcome back to Peter Swampy Marsh after leaving me on my own last week. Swampy, thanks for that. Brushed me.
Smallest violin in the world.
Brushed me, mate.
Matty.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Good to be back sitting alongside you.
What were you doing out playing golf or something last week?
I wish, Matty. I thought you might want to go off on a little bit of a Twitter rampage, a la Dave Warner, if I didn't show up this morning. So
I was sitting awake Friday morning after Sports Fever at 4 a.m. thinking, you're a hack. You're a hack, Peter Marsh. Get a real job, Swamp. You just put people down.
I do.
Of course, we were referring to Dave Warner, who just lost the plot. Is that fair enough to say?
I think that's fair enough to say. He did lose the plot a little bit, Dave. When I was following it live, I saw the first tweet go up as it went up, Matty, and it kind of took me by surprise a little bit, I thought.
I got very angry, Swamp, because he attacked a good friend of the show, a Moreton Bay's own, Robert Crash Craddock. You can't go attacking Crash.
Well, this was, and probably what came to the centre at it for me, Matty, is that he was defending the IPL, one of the murkiest competitions going around in world sport, you'd say, which had just turned up 3 match fixers in India, none Australian, of course, all Indian base, and a lot of question marks over the validity of the IPL given the dramas they're having with match fixing. So he's defending that competition against one of the most respected sports journalists, and especially one of the most respected cricket journalists in the entire world. So didn't really pick his target or his subject exceptionally well, Dave Warner, I think.
And didn't go about it in the most... he really come off looking like a dill.
And I think that's at the core of it, Matty. I entirely hope that he continues to voice his mind on any kind of issues that are floating around in cricket. It's great to see. And I really disagree with the fact that he got slugged with a $5,000 fine overnight. It just discourages players to say what they really think, which is, as journalists, what we want them to do. But he did go about it in the wrong way. There were ways and means. He disagreed with the story. That's absolutely his right to, and he could have come out with a couple of very well worded tweets and come back and landed his mark and would have everyone talking about it in a different way instead of focusing on him and some poor choice of words and some personal attacks, which, whether you're tweeting about sport or anything, really get you nowhere.
Yeah, he could have, like you said, could have got the same message across and come across, I guess, for a lot smarter, because it just seemed very, very basic, and yeah, I don't know, but and full credit to Crash, he's come out and said, look, I encourage it. He spends his whole life asking cricketers to speak their mind, like you just touched on, which is great, and but and then he attacked Malcolm Conn as well, and
Conn did have a few words to say back to him as well, and if Dave Warner had picked up the phone to Conn or Crash, said, look, I'm not a big fan of what you wrote this morning, and I think there's some things that have gone wrong with it. They would have said, beautiful, mate. Tell us what we did wrong. Let's get your point of view. Yeah. Let's do it. He could have penned his own piece, sent it out, said, here's my response to these things. That's the kinds of stuff that is, especially a sports journalist, so that we look to cover. So, but delving into some of the things he did, not the smartest idea, and I hope it doesn't discourage too many other sports people for going out and speaking their minds, because that's what the fans want, and that's what journalists want as well, not cookie cutter players and stars that give 110% every week, and that's all you get. It makes for boring reading and boring people, unfortunately.
It does, but was certainly very interesting, but I never liked Dave Warner anyway.
There you go.
Fair spray.
He's come out, didn't like him in the first place.
Didn't like him.
Well, certainly not done these Australian captaincy hopes any help, I think. Plenty of people that were touting him as a future, but a little bit of a loose cannon.
If he was an Australian candidate to start with, we were in big trouble. That's my view. That's Matthew Duncan.
And I'll tell you what it's overshadowed, Matty, is it's most of the Ashes squad leaves for England today, and we should be talking about what's going to be a fantastic 10 Ashes tests pretty much back-to-back this year, and it's all been overshadowed by this Warner nonsense that has kind of taken the limelight, but maybe that's what he wanted to do, because they're not in Stuart Broad dismantling New Zealand earlier in the week. And
after England had battled, they were in all sorts themselves, and Broad dug them out of a big hole there, turned that Test match on its head. So there was talks about how there was going to be two battling nations earlier in the week, and Stuart Broad comes out and just turns the Test match on their head, and then all of Australia are in panic mode again.
It's going to be a very interesting couple of tests coming up.
No hope, Australia.
No hope. Five zip to England.
Well, maybe not 5-zip, but they won't. I don't think we could. We had some quality Test sides last time, and I know that we had. There's comparisons being drawn to 1989 when AB took a mob. Said the worst team ever, but I can't see this team competing with England on home soil.
And this is what probably is the big question mark for me. I don't think when you look at the two sides, I think our bowling attack and our pace attack especially can stand up, but I think their batters are better than our bowlers, and I definitely know that their bowlers are better than our batters. So I just don't think we've got the runs in the side to be able to defend what our bowlers are going to be able to restrict England to.
And England, you've got to bat with patience in England, and that is a big thing that our team has lacked. Outside Cowan, outside Clark, there's just been no patience in their batting, and that is Ashes batting 101 in England. So I think that's where we're going to really struggle, and the fact that there's very limited Queenslanders in the team.
Oh, of course. Well, that's reason number one why we're going to struggle, Matty. Reason number one. But I couldn't agree with you more. And players like, and I don't have personal crusades against too many sportsmen, Matty, but I still can't understand why Glenn Maxwell gets a run as a Test cricketer. I really can't. And it exemplifies your point there, the no patience there. And I hate to say this because I feel a bit old, but the 2020 generation that come out and want quick runs and aren't willing to grit out an innings.
Yeah, the only thing about Glenn Maxwell, I think all young players, it gives them hope that they one day can be not very good and still play for Australia.
Oh, your words, not mine.
Hey, I've given a couple of spray this morning. Good big morning to Dave Warner and Glenn Maxwell, who huge fans of the show. 12 minutes past 8, we're going to play a song and be back to talk to a very good friend of the show, Jacinta Mesa from the Queensland Firebirds. John Parr with the big 80s classic St Elmo's Fire at 16 minutes past 8 here on 101.5. Time now to talk to a real good friend of the show. She's a defender for the all-conquering Queensland Firebirds. She joins us on the line. Jacinta Mesa, good morning to you.
Hi guys, how you going?
We're really good here this morning, Jacinta, but still not as good as the Queensland Firebirds are going at the moment. A couple of fantastic wins since we managed to speak to you last. I think win over the Canterbury Tactics, a very big win there, and of course a very solid win over the Melbourne Vixens at the weekend as well. Things rolling along very, very well for the Firebirds this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think anybody really expected us sort of to be in this position coming into the back end of this season, but we're absolutely delighted, and particularly the last two games, the way we've been playing, just coming together nicely, and great to get away with some of those big wins.
And seven of 8 wins to really work your way through to the pointy end of the season now. How's the group feeling? You said no one really expected. Was it something that the group thought that you might be in this position, or has it caught you guys by surprise as well?
I don't think that you come into a competition with 5 rookies and expect to be, in finals, well, not in finals contention, but one of the teams that everybody's going to watch. So for us to be 7 from 8, and to have everybody playing the way that they're playing, it's unbelievable. And I think we're all a little bit shocked, but we've really got a taste of it now, and I think that's really going to drive us home as we come into that final series.
Is it the fact that the pressure's off from last year? You had that all-conquering season, undefeated, won the championship, then we've seen it is a real curse for those teams that win it. What was the pressure just too much last year, and that's kind of off this year, and you can play maybe a more natural game?
Oh, look, I think back to where we were this time last year, and the feeling is just really chalk and cheese. There's a lot more sort of a positive vibe, and it is a bit of a curse winning that premiership, because in the off-season everybody's checking out what you've been doing and watching you quite closely and reviewing those tapes really closely. So I think that we missed out on the finals last year, and that was really tough. So we just want to make sure that doesn't happen again, and we're on track to do that.
You spoke of some of those rookies in the side earlier, Jacinta, and a few of them really coming on and starring against the Tactics in that big win there when you had a few players out, a few very big guns out of that side, but the rookies coming on and acquitting themselves very well in that final quarter.
Absolutely, and all credit to them. They are training so well, and it's fantastic that Rose is putting them out onto that court. And when they do get out there, they are killing it. I don't think it's any surprise to anyone that the last few weeks have been really tough for us, but we've all come together and done quite a nice job.
And a very big clash just last weekend, of course, against the Melbourne Vixens, but the Firebirds leading from start to finish, I believe, in that match. Is that a pretty big confidence boost to really start your run home to the finals?
Absolutely. Look, the Vixens are just one of those teams that just keep coming and coming, and they are so incredibly skilled. And one of the teams that they thought was going to take out this premiership. So to be in front that whole way, and we were missing Geitzy, our captain. So to have that result and to win by 11, which is pretty much unheard of in this competition, everybody's sort of so strong. We were absolutely delighted. You couldn't take the smiles off our faces.
Now, if you haven't already had a chance to go out and check a Firebirds home game, there are two Queensland games coming up back to back here. First one this weekend against the Waikato Magic, and then the return leg against the Melbourne Vixens in Brisbane. I imagine that's probably one a little bit down the road that the team are very much looking forward to, hosting the Vixens on your home turf and expecting a pretty tough clash there.
Absolutely. We expect nothing less from those Vixens, but we're really excited to be able to play them on our home turf, and hopefully that crowd will get in there and get behind us and get us across the line.
Yeah, looking forward to those games in southeast Queensland over the next couple of weeks. Now, Jacinta, you've got a regular radio spot here on 101.5. I picked up the Redcliffe Herald yesterday, and you're on the inside the back page. You're becoming a real star of the Moreton Bay region for the Queensland Firebirds.
Yeah, I'm just parting myself out to the different media outlets for the good of the sport. So it's good. It's all good.
We really appreciate it. It's fantastic, and we love chatting to you and following the progress of the Firebirds. We're so proud of how yourself and the team are going this season, and no doubt we'll talk to you again in a couple of weeks.
Wonderful. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jacinta.
Bye.
Bye.
One of our good friends of the show, Jacinta Messer, real star of that Firebirds team.
Yeah, absolute superstar. And we said it before, Matty, but just they are rolling along so well this season, the Firebirds, and hopefully they can keep that form and roll very strongly into the finals. Only 5 games left, so we're about to hit round 10 of 14 for the ANZ Championship. So not a massively long season that the Firebirds do play, but they've started very well. Hopefully they can finish it off and come home very strong when the finals start in about July.
Yes, good luck to the Firebirds. Time now for another song and a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back to talk more sport. Wouldn't it be nice, the Beach Boys? It's 8:30 here on SportsFeva on radio station 101.5, Moreton Bay's own. Swampy time now to talk some Sunshine Coast and Gympie Rugby League, and it'll be 8:30 every week where we'll talk some Sunny Coast Rugby League. We'll have a look at the results from the week before and preview this week's games. And unfortunately for our real local team, the Snakies, went down to a team that's becoming their real arch nemesis, the Kiwana Dolphins.
Didn't give them the kiss of death, did I?
I think you did.
I think I did. Look, it was there was a week off, so officially this is round 2, Matty, and look, they did the job. Kiwana ended up with a 34-20 win over the Snakies at the Snake Pit there. So, geez, they're just keeping on, the Kiwana Dolphins, aren't they? A huge win over Caloundra to open the season. And, look, it probably says a little bit about the form that the Snakes are in, that they still managed to put 20 points on them and restrict them to 34. But just in great form, the Kiwana Dolphins.
Robbie Ruff, a superstar.
That said, though,
coach.
Matty, the reserve grade and under 18s for Caboolture did have the under 18s in particular, which Chuck Tomlinson did tip us, 46-12 win there. So very good results for the Snakies reserves and under 18s, and congratulations to them.
Now, I want you to find. I asked James Ford last week. He hasn't got back to me yet. I want you to find out what the record is for consecutive wins for a team.
All right.
And get on to
homework.
Get on and see if the Kiwana Dolphins are about to break a record or they've got to win for another season. They could have been a team in the 80s that won 3 seasons in a row.
There's always a team in the 80s that's won 3 seasons in a row.
Well, that's for you to find out, Sport. That's your job, or get Jacob Grams or someone onto it. I don't care if you outsource it. I want the answer next week.
I'll find it.
Thank you. That's what I wanted, Swamp. You want to just run quickly through the other results from last week?
Sure. Bribie Island, back-to-back wins to open their season. Of course, the second game as a joint venture is the Bribie Island Seagulls. They defeated the Caloundra Sharks, who are in a little bit of strife at the moment. It looks like Bribie Island winning 42-4 there. Paul McEwen for the Bribie Island Seagulls running away with 4 tries there in that game. So congratulations to Paul.
And Paul is a Bribie Island local as well, so great to see Paul doing great things there.
Fantastic stuff. And the Gympie Devils, along with along with Kawana and Bribie, the only team that hasn't lost yet as we go, sharing the lead. Josh Greaves for the Devils scoring a hat-trick, and the Devils got one over the Nambour Crushers 36-26. And in the last game, the Noosa Pirates. To tell you what, we talked up the Pirates as one of the teams to beat along with Kawana at the start of the season, Matty, and they've started 2 losses, back-to-back losses. The Maroochydore Coolum Swans getting the Chockies there 32-4 over the Pirates. So interesting to see what's going on up at Pirate Park.
Don't think Galthorpe's played since the season proper has started. So that's unconfirmed, but I've got a feeling he has. They've still got Scott Hill, who's a fair footballer.
Absolutely.
Now, I've just decided this right here and now, Swampy. From now on this week, you and me are going to go head-to-head on the Sunshine Coast and Gympie Rugby League tips.
I'll take you. I'll take that.
This is it. This is a competition from now on, so you better write this down somewhere each week, otherwise we've got no chance. This is live radio at its best as we come up with competitions on the fly. So this week it's Gympie versus Caloundra. Who are you tipping, Swamp?
Oh, look, I've got to go for the Devils over that one. They were playing a little bit coy in the pre-season competition, I think, and they've 2 very good wins in Caloundra and a bit of strife this year, I think. So the Devils there for mine.
Yeah, the Devs are specials there at home. Now, Kawana, the all-conquering Kawana Dolphins take on the all-conquering Bribie Island
Juicy clash. Probably the clash of the round, you'd say, for this one, Matty. Look, I'm going to go for the local team. It didn't serve me well last week, but I think the Seagulls might be able to snap the streak. I've said it. The Seagulls to do one over Kawana there. The Bribie flag to fly. So they're just playing some good football, the Seagulls, and seem to have that arrangement that they've got seems to have bedded down and settled in very nicely. So the Seagulls over Kawana for me.
I've seen Robbie Bruff fire up teams like no other coach can. He will have his team that pumped up. This is a game they want to win. They rate themselves the Dolphins. They wanted to take on the Sunshine Coast Seagulls Queensland Cup side at the end of last season, and they threw the challenge out.
And deserve to rate themselves as well.
They will have this as, look, we are the superior team on the Sunshine Coast. This is a grand final for them. The Dolphins are specials.
There you go. Well, I'll take you on, and I think it's the reverse here. A lot of these players for the Bribie Island Seagulls were the Sunshine Coast Seagulls Fogs Cup players last year, and they won't want to be losing to some upstarts from Kawana. So I think they'll be very keen for this one. But either way, should be a cracking game of football at Kawana.
Yeah, absolutely. Now the Pirates, the limping Pirates, the wooden leg Pirates, at the moment, as we've said, take on Nambour at Pirate Park on Sunday. Who are you tipping there, Swamp?
Well, I need some mail on this one, and I don't have any. If Goldthorpe comes back, I've got to go with the Pirates. But if he's out, I'm trending towards Nambour. But you know what? I don't think the Pirates will lose 3 on the trot, Matty. I think at home I'll come back and do the goods.
No, I agree with you there as well, Swamp. The Pirates at Pirate Park. And then our final game, Sunday afternoon at the Snake Pit. The Snakes take on Maroochydore at the Snake Pit. As we said, a huge game, a huge day there, of course. It all starts with the under-18s at 10 to 12, then the reserve grade at 1:20, then the big clash at 3 p.m. Make sure you all get along to the Snake Pit, get right behind the Snakes, but do take a jumper. It's always cold at the Snake Pit, Swamp.
Always cold, always very cold, but I think Chook Tomlinson men's will be raring hot, and I think they'll do the business over the Swans there.
Yeah, the Snakes to clean sweep the day there for mine at the Snake Pit. So the one game it comes down to this week, Swamp, is the clash of the Titans, the Sea Eagles versus the Dolphins. So let's see who gets bragging rights next week.
It'll be very interesting, that game, and of course likely that we'll be down to 2 up the top of the... If it does pan out that Gympie does get the win over Caloundra there, they'll remain on the top, but either Kawana or Bribie won't be on top at the start of the next round. So very interesting to see what goes on.
Yeah, it's a great week of Sunny Coast Gympie Rugby League. And now, just a reminder, there are no C-grade Red Rooster games this week. It is representative week in C-grade. So the Northern Districts will take on the Red Rooster Cup representative team on the weekend. And another great game in the women's comp, and it's getting played locally. I really encourage you to get along to this one if you can on Saturday afternoon. The D-Bay Bombers take on Biwa, so a real local flavour to the clash being played at the D-Bay Sports Ground, like we said, 3 p.m. Saturday. Some real quality players in that team, so if you're looking for your rugby league fix on a Saturday afternoon, get along to the D-Bay Sports Ground and watch the D-Bay Bombers women take on the Biwa women at 3 p.m. That'll be a great game, Tom.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Women's Rugby League, something that's really, really growing in the region and growing right across Brisbane. Used to be a few select teams, and the ladies that wanted to play had to travel a very long way to find a side, but more and more popping up, which is a fantastic thing to see.
It is, absolutely. Won't count to our tipping comp, but what's the tip in that game, Tom?
I'll go for the Bombers at home over that one.
Bombers, yeah, no, I agree. Bombers are always hard to beat at D-Bay. Now, Swamp, the other big news, I guess, locally, and not associated with Sunshine Coast Gympie Rugby League in any way, but we need to make mention of it because, I guess, huge news relating to local sport and sport that we love to follow here in the local region, is because we love our local rugby league, but I guess some unfortunate news filtering through earlier in the week.
Yeah, we saw 6 players earn the attention and ire of both the QRL and ASADA. One player from the Queensland Cup, who was Andrew Zaro from the Sunshine Coast Seagulls, hasn't played Queensland Cup this year. Banned for 2 years. 4 players from the Brisbane Second Division Rugby League, the grand final there last year. And Matty, off the top of my head, I can't recall with 100% confidence those 2 teams, so I'm not going to name them if I'm not 100%. But it was 2 players from each side that played in one of the grand finals last year. Also received 2-year bans, and I'm pretty sure it was one single player from the Toowoomba local competition as well that earned a 2-year ban. Not good to see, but what's probably important to note, and especially for local players around in any competition, is that these guys weren't done taking, injecting, horse steroids or shady things like that. What unfortunately did them in were supplements that they bought over the counter or ordered off the internet that marketed themselves as workout supplements that help you get some results in the gym, not as any kind of illegal, shady, performance-enhancing drugs, but unfortunately they do contain things that sit on that ASADA banned list.
And one of the thing I really want to put out there is one of the real reasons this particular supplements are banned is because it has caused deaths as well. So that's the reason ASADA originally said, look, we're banning this stuff for your own good because it is dangerous to your health. Not so much that you're getting an unfair advantage. If you take it, you're a chance to die. And
a couple of my colleagues speaking to local clubs during the week, and a lot of them are quite concerned that there's so many of these supplements out there, and of course these players are told at the start of the year, don't go taking this kind of thing. You can be tested at any time, anywhere, but when they're not at a Queensland Cup or NRL level, being sat down and told, this is what you must take before you go to the gym, this is what you have to do. They don't get weekly education sessions, and they see someone at the gym who tells them, recommends them something, take it, and all of a sudden they've earned themselves a 2-year ban. So a real tale of caution there for anyone involved in those local footy comps to really keep an eye on any of those supplements that you're taking. Check over that ingredient list and check it against what is and isn't allowed, because unfortunately players found themselves in a lot of strife, and they're out of any sport that comes under the WADA anti-doping code for 2 years. They're out. They can't play anything.
Which is unfortunate, because for a lot of those players, much as a social activity as anything. So it's real disappointing when, like Swampy said, just check those ingredients, and it could be just one single ingredient in those type of supplements that can bring you undone. And also, I'm not suggesting it happened in this instance, but it can also, if you're taking some type of flu tablet or something like that, if you mix it with that can skew your results as well. So you've always got to be careful.
I believe ASADA does have a list of prohibited supplements as opposed to the shadier performance-enhancing drugs, so supplements that will land you in hot water on their website. So well worth going to there and checking what can and can't be taken.
And the big thing to check is a lot of these are branded with a brand name.
Yep.
You might have a single name. You've got to dig a little bit deeper than that as well. So and find out what the actual name of the supplement is opposed to its brand name as such. So disappointing. Look, I know Andrew Zarrow well. Really, good guy that we've seen play around the Queensland Cup and the Fogs Cup for a couple of years. So, but disappointing to see. So, but look, we can't stress enough to if you are taking a supplement to look firstly check what you are definitely taking and check it out with someone.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, Matty. That's I suppose the real key and tale of caution from these guys. If anything gets learnt, it's probably that.
Yep, absolutely. It's 18 minutes to 9. Time now for a word from our sponsors. It's bang on 8:45. You're listening to Sports Fever with Matthew and Swampy on Moreton Bay's own radio station 101.5. Time now to talk to a good friend of the show. It's Mike Whiting from afl.com.au. Big good morning to you, Michael.
G'day, Matty. How are you, boys?
We're very good here this morning, mate. But some very good things floating around the Queensland AFL scene at the moment. Both the Lions and the Suns showing some really good signs, and especially good for the Lions, who plenty of people had been counting out with a very tough draw in just weeks just gone and coming weeks, but doing the business over the Bombers last weekend.
Yeah, something to cheer about, wasn't it? You mentioned it was a great weekend for Queensland AFL fans. Brisbane and Gold Coast both getting up, which I'm not sure if it's happened that often in the last 2.5 years, but terrific performance, particularly by the Lions. As you said, not many people, including myself, I've got to put my hand up there, gave them any hope at all of beating Essendon, but their pressure for 4 quarters was incredible. You were just sort of expecting a 5 or 10 minute drop off here or there for Essendon to kick clear, but it just never happened. Brisbane's pressure on the ball was fantastic, and then when they got the ball, they used it so well going forward. They used had a few more options rather than just going to Jonathan Brown all the time, and they used a lot of different guys forward, and they got the 4 points, so a little bit of pressure on Fossey for a week anyway. I'm sure he'll be as glad as anyone.
What do you think the turnaround, can you put your finger on anything? I guess as a Lions fan, as it was good to celebrate a victory, it was frustrating in a way to see them play so well for 4 quarters, and you think, well, where has this been over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, well, I think it's slowly turned in the past month. I think that the first month was disgraceful, really. I mean, those performances against the Western Bulldogs in North Melbourne, the Lions will be the first to admit they were horrible performances. But since that first 4 weeks, they've slowly turned things around. I think the first quarter against Sydney was quite poor, but the final 3 quarters were really encouraging. Then we saw 3.5 good quarters against West Coast. Obviously, just a week and a half ago, that was an encouraging performance as well. I think that started to show that things had started to turn slowly. A few players came back into form. We saw a few guys at the defensive end who'd been struggling start to find a bit of form, and then obviously on the weekend we saw 4 quarters. So I think slowly the last sort of 2 or 3 weeks we've seen just glimpses of that form from the NAB Cup, and I mean now they've set the benchmark, haven't they? We've seen what Brisbane can do, and that's what people can and should expect of them every week.
One of the big ins for the Lions last weekend was Brent Staker, and he turned on one of the great fairy tales that sport does turn up from time to time, kicking that winning goal when coming back from a time through injury. You wouldn't wish upon any kind of sportsman. How much will having Staker fit and back in this side add to the Lions?
Oh, it's a huge difference. I think we've seen, he's been out for almost 2 seasons. He's played a handful of games in 2.5 seasons, and Brisbane still struggled to find that third forward or third tall defender, and Staker can do both. So we've seen how much his absence has really hurt in the last year or two. As soon as he comes back, you're able to fix both ends of the ground. He started in defence and finished up forward and contributed at both ends. So, you'd expect him to get better as the weeks go on. He's only had a month of footy back after such a long layoff. 3 or 4 games in the reserve and now 1 in the senior. So you'd expect him to keep improving each week and get more run in his league. But he's an enormous addition to the team, and I don't think it can be underestimated.
Now, of course, the other Queensland AFL side, the Suns, going very well, pulling back-to-back wins for the first time in their history last weekend, and I believe their first ever win at the G as well. So wonderful and encouraging signs for the Suns there. Yeah,
really nice, isn't it? They just sort of scooted along under the radar a bit. While teams like Melbourne and the Western Bulldogs are copping the heat down south. The Suns have just got a nice little record going, 4 wins and 4 losses, and beating all those teams that were around them last year when they've had a chance early this season. So we've seen definite signs of progress, both individually and as a team. But now they face their huge assignments in the next few weeks. They've got Hawthorn at the MCG on Sunday, back down to Victoria the following week to play Geelong at Simmons Stadium. So we'll get a good indication of how far they've really come. I mean, we've said they've advanced, but we'll get a further indication when they play against these top 4 teams in the next few weeks.
And unfortunately, the terrible news for the Suns coming out of last week was the big ruckman Zach Smith going to be out for 12 months, coming off an ACL tear there. That's a real body blow for the Suns, isn't it?
Yeah, sure is. They're popping up everywhere, aren't they, the ACLs? We just talked about Brent Staker, and he's come off a couple of them. But yeah, shocking news for Zach Smith. I thought the start of his season was really encouraging. He struggled quite a bit last year. It was, whether you call it second-year syndrome or whatever, it was just a bit of a battle for him. But we've seen that return to form that we'd seen in the Suns' first year, and Zach's got a great leaping ability. He's very good around the ground, so he's good in the ruck, he's good in the forward line, and we just started to see him return to his best, and it's like a terrible, terrible luck for the Suns and Zach Smith in particular. But it's got a couple of guys that I'm sure will step up and fill the breach. So I'll have a guy called Tom Nichols who'll probably play this weekend, and he gets a chance. And the Suns are just going to have to do their best without him. There's a few up and down there that'll fill in, but yeah, shocking news.
Looking at the competition as a whole now, Mike, 8 games into the season, who are the teams to beat? We've got a few of our usual suspects up at the top of the table, but is there a smoky floating there that you think might be there come end of the season?
Oh, it's really difficult at the moment, isn't it? It's quite hard to gauge a form line, I think. We saw Essendon jump out of the blocks so quickly, but we know they've had a lot of off-field dramas as well, so we don't know how that's affecting them, and their second half of the seasons have been so poor the last couple of years. I mean, Hawthorn are the ones that have been the most consistent, really. They've been terrific. Geelong have been terrific, but they've sort of got out of jail a few times. Geelong, I'm not 100% sold on them just yet. But the team that I think will come from the teams that will come from sort of the middle of that top 8 towards the top, I think, are the teams from the West. I think Fremantle and West Coast, they've both had quite a significant setback through injuries in the first 8 rounds. We've seen glimpses from both. I think they're the 2 teams that you'll see come to the top 4, and I think they'll push. Both of those teams will push very closely for the premiership.
Putting AFL aside for a minute to another sport that we all love here is the NBA. We're in the middle of the conference finals. Your beloved Golden State Warriors gave you an almighty sight throughout the conference semis. Played some really great basketball, probably one of the most entertaining teams to watch. Mike, I guess it's bittersweet for you to see them playing so well, but of course then bow out in 6 games.
Oh, mate, it was so exciting when you follow. I'm sure people out there will appreciate any time you follow a team that struggles for so many years and then they have a terrific season like Golden State's just had. It's just really an exciting ride. Like, it's always disappointing to get bundled out, but I was just thinking a couple of days ago, if someone had said to me at the start of the season that Golden State would be pushing San Antonio in the conference semi-finals to 6 games and have their chances to win Game 6, like I would have called them idiots. Like, it was just that would have been a ludicrous notion 6 or 8 months ago. But the ride they gave the supporters like myself was just terrific. And but considering there was a few guys that carried injuries, David Lee and obviously Andrew Bogut, as most people out here know, he played injured for a lot of the season. Hopefully getting those guys fit next year, you can only see positive for the Warriors. But yeah, definite shame. It was pretty gutting when they got knocked out on Friday. Good
things for the year ahead, though. Are you, as a Warriors fan, are you a little bit concerned about, I suppose, the things that are being said last year were really being said about the Thunder, and they got done and were quite disappointing this year. You know, there's the words floating about a young and exciting team coming through. Are you a little bit wary that the Warriors might run into a little bit of what happened to the Thunder last year?
Oh, definitely. I think people obviously start putting a lot more homework into guys as well. Like Stephen Curry, like such a, he sort of burst onto the scene this year. He's been around for 3 or 4 years. He sort of took a few people by surprise. So teams put a lot more homework into organisations once they start, climbing the ladder and getting into conference semis and conference finals. So there's obviously a worry there, but I think the nucleus of the team is quite young and they're all contracted. So I think that's the important thing. I know Oklahoma lost James Harden at the end of last year, and they obviously had an unfortunate injury to Russell Westbrook a few weeks ago, so that sort of derailed them. But I think from a Warriors point of view, they're all young, they're all contracted, and I'd like to think they can at least put themselves in the same position again next year.
You mentioned Curry. Some of the things he did towards that later part of the season and through the playoffs, just one of the sweetest shots I think I've ever seen, Mike.
Oh, just phenomenal, isn't he? Like, obviously, I've watched him closely since he got drafted from Davidson 4 years ago, but he's had so many ankle injuries. He's had his ankle reconstructed surgically, and we haven't probably seen the best of him up until now because he hasn't had a good continuity of play. But he did that this season, and we saw the best of him. And not only his shot, but just his ball handling and his court vision is something that we certainly hadn't seen in his first couple of years. But just a phenomenal player, and he's sort of bordering on that superstar status now.
Now, of course, we are down to the conference finals. The San Antonio Spurs going up against the Memphis Grizzlies in the West, and Miami Heat going up against the Indiana Pacers in the East. Mike, I'd love to get a tip for both the conference finals and for, of course, the NBA final as well. Who have you got?
I think I've got to stick with San Antonio in the West. I think their offense is just a little bit too much variety for Memphis. And in the East, I really can't wait for this series. I can't wait to watch Indiana and Miami. I think ultimately just the talent of Miami will get them home, but I think it'll be 6 or 7 games. And then in the finals, again, I just see the talent of Miami being a little too much. I mean, ultimately, when you've got the best player in the world, he's pretty hard to contain, LeBron. So I think they'll really have their work cut out getting through both series, but I think ultimately Miami might just sneak it.
Few eye rolls here alongside the studio.
You could have seen it, Mike.
Wow.
Swampy's doing the fist pump like he's been a Heat fan for all his life. You know, he started following them last year. Please, it's sickening to watch in the studio, Mike. I wish you could be.
I can imagine they're far from past the post. So I think Indiana's going to give them everything they can handle. I just love the toughness of Indiana, and they've got big Roy Hibbert and David West and guys that I think Miami might struggle to contain on the defensive end, but just at the other end of the court, it's just hard to see. Just the talent of Miami is just hard to overlook, isn't it?
Oh, I've got to agree with you about this series, though, Mike. It's going to be an absolute cracker. It was a wonderful series last year in the conference semi-finals, and a real spiteful one at times.
They don't like each other, do they?
So the Pacers know how to get under Miami's skin and really gave them a scare and played some wonderful basketball. So I completely agree that the Heat are far from home, and it's going to be a cracker of a series starting in a couple of hours' time.
The other player I just want to quickly mention from the Spurs, how good is Tim Duncan going at 37 years old?
He's a lesson for everyone. I mean, we've got our own version in the AFL with Dustin Fletcher, but Tim Duncan, just when his career seemed to be tailing off, he's just had an incredible season. He's back to, he played in the All-Star game this year. He's still one of the most dominant big men in the game. Quite an amazing story for a guy that's been in the league for, I think this is his 16th or 17th season. So just an incredible story, and probably a lesson out there for a lot of guys that their careers coming towards an end, and he's shown what you can do.
Mike, we love having you on to talk AFL and NBA. Thank you so much for your time this morning, mate, and we'll definitely have to get you back on in the middle of the year as the AFL season rolls on. Really appreciate your time.
No worries, boys. Always good to have a chat.
Good on you, Mike.
Cheers, Mike.
See you.
Mike Wadding from AFL.com.au, and I'd say I reckon Australia's number one Golden State Warrior fan.
I don't know if there is an Australian Golden State Warrior fan club, but he would be the president.
But because he was there, like there might be a few more now because Bogut's there. A few might have said like we go to Bogut.
Bogut.
He's well before Bogut.
But they give you a BB on the
before Bogut. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, like you're ABL. You're after ALB. You're after LeBron. You know, so you're one of those Heat fans. But that's okay, Swamp. Everyone loves a bandwagon.
Now that speaking of bandwagons, now that the Knicks are out and you jumped on there, you've jumped off there. Where are the Matthew Duncan loyalties now lying?
I'm going for Uncle Tim.
Uncle Tim.
Uncle
so you've
Tim
gone
Duncan
back
to the Spurs.
Back to the Spurs.
Just a minute ago on the show, so I don't like to cut you off, but we failed to mention Dolphins play Ipswich this weekend at the Jets. Big news, Rocky Capewell left the Dolphins during the week. He got an opportunity to go to Penrith. good luck to Rocky. Really disappointing to see, though. We love watching Luke Catewell play for the Dolphins. Of course, Queensland Cup Player of the Year last year, real integral part of that Dolphins lineup. And as much as it pains me to say, Dolphins will struggle. You can't take your halfback. You can't take a halfback out of any side, and to take him out of that side. Kennedy will do a great job, but he's coming off a serious injury. It's going to be tough times for the Dolphins ahead.
Yeah, and the selfish part of me is hurting because he's left the Dolphins, and I don't think any Dolphins fan will say that they won't struggle without him. But nothing but the best wishes for Luke Catewell. Hasn't quite had the shot at the Broncos, but hopefully he gets a wonderful chance at the Penrith Panthers, and I wish him all the best. Stand up bloke on and off the field, and good luck to Rocky at the Panthers.
I bet he felt a bit sick when the rumour started to circulate that Peter Wallace was going down to Penrith. He would have thought, oh no, I can never get a crack anywhere. But good luck to Rocky.
Absolutely.
A really good guy.
SportsFeva stamp.
And a really good player who I just don't think has got the proper opportunities at halfback that he deserves, and if he can, I think he can really crack the NRL. But good luck to Rocky, and good luck to all our teams doing battle in the Moreton Bay region this week. SportsFeva's done and dust for another week. Thank you, Swamp. Thank you, Mike Whiting, and thank you, Jacinta Messer. Stand by now for the national news.